Millions of Nigerians impacted by economic sustainability plan and COVID-19 stimulus packages, says Osibajo. IMF advises CBN to unify exchange rates. APCON backs ban on cryptocurrency to prop anti-money laundering stance. Plus, gold edges up on softer dollar. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Federal ministers, heads of agencies are reporting further progress in the implementation of the Economic Sustainability Plan of the Buhari administration. A statement by Senior Special Assistant to the President on the Media Publicity, Office of the Vice President, Laolu Akande, says they presented the report at a meeting of the Economic Sustainability Committee presided by Vice President Yemi Oshibajo. Highlights include the release of 37 billion naira for survival fund covering such schemes like 50,000 payroll support for 3 months to more than 300,000 beneficiaries, one-time grant of 30,000 naira to about 100,000 artisans and 100,000 business name registrations paid for by the federal government, amongst other interventions. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) has advised the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) to take a gradual and multi-step approach towards establishing a unified and clear exchange rate regime, with the near-term focus on allowing for greater flexibility and removing the payments backlog. The bank's directors observed that multiple rates, limited flexibility, and foreign exchange shortages are posing challenges. They further noted that the accommodative monetary stance remains appropriate in the near term, although tightening may be warranted if balance of payments or inflationary pressures are to increase. They highlighted the need for improved social safety nets to cushion potential negative impacts on the poor. As the dust raised by the closure of cryptocurrency traders' accounts is yet to settle, the Association of Bureaus de Change Operators of Nigeria has given its backing to the Central Bank of Nigeria policy. President APCON Aminu Gwadebe says the regulator acted fast to curtail an emerging dangerous trend capable of eroding Nigeria's anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing gains. He said that before placing a ban on financial dealings that does not conform with NOM, the regulator should have gotten the financial intelligence on such operations, as seen in kidnappers now collecting Bitcoin for ransom, adding that cryptocurrency trading is so pervasive and widespread that every segment and all sectors in the financial industry are becoming vulnerable to their operations, not guided by regulation, resulting to many financial sector regulators, prominent financial institutions including global banks and investment firms moving swiftly against the cryptocurrency operators. Joining the conversation via Zoom on the reinforced ban on the cryptocurrency regime by the CBN is the Chief Executive Officer, Sumo Trust, Igwe Crescent. You are welcome to Business Express, Mr. Igwe, if you can hear me.
Thank you so much. I can hear you.
Good. Still trending is the reinforced ban on financial institutions to transact in cryptocurrencies. What's your take on the implication to the Nigerian economy?
Okay, I think I'll start by saying in every innovation or in every movement, there's always a good side and there's also the bad side of it. Now, we're in a world where we should be progressive, and in that case, blockchain technology is a technology that has come to stay. So even if we pull off the cryptocurrency aspect of it, we still have the underlying technology, which is blockchain, at the main edge of the whole thing. But in this case, we are discussing cryptocurrency. So now, if we look at the advantages of a cryptocurrency, I think it's something the government can utilize and not just the outright ban or try to distance themselves away from it. Because if Nigeria as a government pulls themselves totally away from the use of cryptocurrency, on the long run, you're still going to end up as a case of something. If we had known, we would have, we should have queued into this tech early enough. So it's something that requires stakeholders to sit down, look at a workable regulatory framework that is going to work and how to regulate exchanges and participants and key players of those who are playing in the cryptocurrency space.
Okay, before we look at issues of regulated this cryptocurrency operations, the ban is coming on the heels of alleged widespread use of cryptocurrencies for illegal activities, including terror financing. Does it mean that the Know Your Customer, the KYC, is not effective? What's your take on that?
Okay, now when you attribute cryptocurrency to financing terrorism, it's like trying to say before 2009, when cryptocurrency came up, there was no terrorism activities going on. People have always used the fiat currency, to transact. So, like I said, there are advantages and disadvantages to every tech. So we can't just say we can't say cryptocurrencies aren't used to finance terrorist activities. But we also have to accept the fact that normal cash, normal currency, fiat, is also used to finance terrorist activities as well. So trying to tag cryptocurrency only to terrorist activities is like saying, okay, this is the reason we are banning. If that is the case, what happens to that? Even if you pull off cryptocurrency, terrorism, it doesn't solve this problem.
But let's get the argument straight. It's not about pulling off cryptocurrencies. It's about regulations, like you said earlier on. And if you understand this whole concept, crypto means it's been encrypted. There's an end-to-end encryption. How can this be traced? How can these funds be traced? If you're talking about regulation, how can we regulate this from your own point of view?
Okay, now that CBN took a major position on about cryptocurrencies, only one thing was regulated, which is the exchanges. It still doesn't stop the fact that people are still transacting crypto. People are still moving money. Even if CBN backs off and the government backs off, people will still transact crypto, which is the anonymity we are talking about. So going ahead to regulate exchanges and stop businesses from involving themselves or allowing people to transact crypto is like trying to cut off a means of revenue. What about CBN or the central government itself becoming the reserve bank of the NGN that is paid against the crypto? Now, for every NGN paid against the crypto, which these exchanges have been banned against, there was a fee attached for every transfer and deposit made, which these companies have been using to generate revenue. These are ways the government can make money from it. So if you focus on the anonymity alone, it doesn't stop the fact that people will still transact without those anonymity. So what about the companies that have been shut down? So we have to look at these companies from the fact that they undergo strong KYC system. Like I know of a brand like Binance, for example. Binance takes your KYC down to your house address, and it is so sophisticated that you cannot pass these KYC processes without having to you can't transact without having to pass those KYC processes.
So that is to say transactions using the Know Your Customer now, transactions can actually be traced using the exchanges.
Yes. When exchange transaction happens on the database, so anything that happens within the database can be traced by the exchanges. So if someone wants to go ahead and carry out a terrorist activity with the blockchain of cryptocurrency, he won't even do it in the exchange in the first place. So that's the problem.
Okay.
So that's the problem.
Okay, let's look at cryptocurrencies, its operations. It is widely used as speculative assets rather than means of payment. Don't you think there is a danger in that?
Okay, now, so I think the only problem we have here now is that cryptocurrency is not regulated at the moment. Now, even the stock market that is highly recommended that we go to, I'm a young investor, okay? I've invested in a couple of projects and startups. Now, for me to go into Nigerian Stock Exchange and invest in a company like Zenith Bank or some of these banks, if you check the performance of these companies over the last 10 years, you can't compare it with what crypto have given people. And everybody needs to survive. Investment is about risk. The forex market is speculative. The stock market is speculative. The cryptocurrency market is speculative. Even the gambling, where people go to play the sports betting, is speculative. So it's not just tied to cryptocurrency alone. I think the problem we have here is that we are not, crypto is not regulated at the moment. And I would love CBN and the authorities to come together and look into a workable, actionable regulatory framework that is going to work.
Okay, looking at the regulation, there has been this attempt by the Securities and Exchange Commission, who, as a body, acknowledged cryptocurrency as securities under its jurisdiction and revealed a promising plan to regulate acquisitions of digital assets in the country. What's your take on that? Is it a good move, and should that be encouraged?
Yes, apparently. Now, what SEC did last year, I read the memo. What SEC did last year was like, okay, there's a hope that something is going to come out of this. Now, and all of a sudden, CBN did something different. It's like there's no communication or synergy between the two regulatory bodies. I was expecting a scenario where since SEC is already drafting a regulatory framework that is going to guide cryptocurrencies, everything is going to fall under the exchanges. A simple rule that says you cannot transact Naira against Bitcoin or any of other cryptocurrencies without having to pay on this particular NGN that is backed by CBN is fraud. That will eventually make people want to transact easily. So SEC coming up with a regulatory framework was a headway. After all, the stocks market, the forex market, even the gambling, the sports betting, when they started, they were not under regulation. It was at some point that they passed through regulation. So cryptocurrency have to pass through this phase. That is not regulated at the moment. Is that regulatory framework have to come up, and that was exactly what SEC was doing.
Okay. While we wait for this regulatory framework to take effect, do you think this digital currency is a threat to the Naira as it is?
No, not at all. Not at all. Now, it is not a threat to Naira because, let me say, for example, I want to withdraw. I have a certain amount of Bitcoin and I want to withdraw in Naira. All it just requires is switch and convert the Bitcoin to Naira, and I take the Naira, and the fees is applied. It's even a more threat to Naira that Naira pulls away from cryptocurrency and people have to go find other currencies to deal with, thereby giving more demand to other currencies than the Naira. So the fact that people are going to adopt peer-to-peer transaction and having to move this money to other countries is going to be a hit on the Naira because there will be lesser demand on the Naira on the long run. Just yesterday, Tesla invested $1.5 billion into Bitcoin and the price jumped up. So imagine the price jumping up and there's a demand for it and people are trying to convert. There's going to be more demand for the Naira. The problem is that about the direct remittances that went down from $2 billion to 50 something million dollars is because there is no proper regulation on the exchanges themselves. If these exchanges are regulated, that before this money moves, you have to pass through this CBN-backed token, there's going to be demand for the Naira, and there's no problem.
Okay, from your experience and having been someone who trades in such digital currencies, what do you think we need to do as a country to better understand the way this thing works and bring in the right regulations to make it effective?
I think at this point, there should be a call for stakeholders. There are people, I myself have been into this space for over 6 years. Okay? And there are people who have been playing actively. Let's come together and have a roundtable talk. People that understand what this thing really means, how to go about regulating exchanges. There are exchanges that operate in Nigeria that are not even registered in Nigeria. We can pull off those exchanges, but the ones that are registered, they have to pass through the appropriate regulatory framework. A framework can be drafted out if we are to sit down and discuss about it. So I think there should be a headway, and there's no threat. There's no threat to the financial sector, or in fact, backing off totally is even the threat to the financial sector than not backing away from it.
Okay, Mr. Igwe Crescent, Chief Executive Officer, Sumo Trust, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us at this particular time. Moving on, the dollar languished near its lowest in a week on Tuesday as investors began entertaining doubts about the scale of a recent rally driven by expectations of a faster pandemic recovery in the United States than elsewhere. Small and medium enterprises, SMEs, play a key role in the economy of any nation. In Akwa Ibom State, some entrepreneurs are lamenting the effect of COVID-19 on their businesses and are appealing for grant from government. Business News correspondent Joy Ubani, who sought to know how they have been sustaining their businesses in the COVID-19 era, brings us details.
Small and medium-sized enterprises comprise an enormous large part of the global economics. It contributes greatly to job creation, especially amongst the youth. Nowadays, in a complex, competitive and volatile business environment with the challenges of COVID-19, some SMEs have suffered setback. In Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, some owners of small business lament their challenges.
There are so many people that are unemployed, which we can conduct training to them, attracting them to join us and then go to other places, other campus and establish themselves. But since we do not have the facility, like the printer, the cost of printer and cartridges are very high now and is affecting us. Some of us here have not reported back because of that COVID-19.
This is going well, but not as we were expected, because things are getting hard and things is even tough.
During this COVID-19 of a thing, it have not been easy for us. It's by the grace of God that we are surviving. So if government can help us for anything, we appreciate that.
2,000 naira before, 2-3 years ago, we are selling it now 6,000 naira. So we cannot compare.
An economist in the University of Uyo, Godwin Akman, says every business have challenges, but despite that, business sustainability principles is important for steady and sustainable growth.
Try and expand. Expansion can come by you trying to incorporate people to share the risk by contributing capital. So partnership can be a way out. Go into cooperative so that the risk, some risk can be taken away from individual and shared among the members of cooperative who are doing the same set of type of business. Those cooperatives can also help them generate funds.
As the country experienced new normal as a result of COVID-19, small business owners in Uyo appeal for grants or loan with low interest from relevant authorities to sustain their businesses.
Trade along the corridor of the Kano-Maradi rail line continued to speak of the economic value of the project initiated by the Nigeria and Niger Republic to facilitate trading activities. Oinaya Kaluoka reports.
Mayor John is a spare part dealer who has been in the business for more than 15 years. Same with Abbas Sani, a trader in grains at the Central Market in Katsina. Both traders have one thing in common: to make profits, but facilitating the movement of their products from one state to another and neighboring countries has been a Herculean task.
A truck that will bring you a goods from Lagos to here will pay more than less than 500,000. It's a very too expensive. So it makes the goods now to be more expensive here.
Allah, it's very too cost. It's too expensive. Even the bag of oil is supposed to buy it at last 1,500 per bag. From Maradi to here, 1,500 per each bag.
With the coming of the railway project, traders like Mayo and Abbas are optimistic that it will change the narrative.
It will help us to bring in our goods.
I think if the coming of this railway, the come must come too easy for us.
This is an advancement for us. It will help us in transporting goods as the roads are bad. The Kano-Maradi rail line project is expected to facilitate public transportation and to stimulate the development of agricultural economy and manufacturing industries along the corridor.
The Nigerian equities mounted further loss as the boss of Africa's largest economy saw its longest losing streak so far this year, with stocks shedding over 442.386 billion naira in the last 6 days of trade, going down by 0.34%. This is coming just as Asia's stocks rise as Wall Street hits new highs. Brent holds above $60 per barrel. Neka Oko reports.
Stocks in Asia were mostly higher in Tuesday trade, following overnight gains on Wall Street that saw the major indices rallying to record closing highs. Mainland Chinese stocks led gains among the region's major markets, with the Shanghai Composite up 1.80% and the Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index advanced 0.25%. In Japan, the Nikkei rose 0.40%. European stocks opened in flat territory on Tuesday. London's FTSE opened 7 points lower at 6,523. Germany's DAX 29 points lower. CAC 40 of France was down 6 points. US stock futures were little changed early Tuesday morning as Wall Street looked to hold on to gains from its February hot streak. The move in futures comes after the three major indices set another round of record highs on Monday. The Dow and S&P 500 have now advanced for 6 straight sessions, while the Nasdaq Composite has finished in the green on 5 of those 6 days. Markets in Africa were mixed in Monday's trade and are opening slowly. Markets in Africa were mixed in Tuesday's trade. Markets in Africa were mixed in Monday's trade and are opening slowly this Tuesday as investors monitor events around the globe. With Global Market Update, Neka Uku.
The intentions of the federal government of reviving agriculture as an alternative to oil is yielding the desired outcome. Emmanuel Akila reports that in Gombe State, the farmers' harvest of cotton for the 2020 wet season farming funded under the Anchor Borrowers Program of the Central Bank of Nigeria has brought back the cotton pyramids, long forgotten, to feed home granaries.
You see the quantities now. A very large quantity of cotton. They are still bringing. They have not finished bringing because we have just started. So the effort made by the government, by the CBN at the federal level, and also by the state government ensuring production of this season and the security, I think has affected the production.
This is where we end this episode of the program. Don't forget you can access this and all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is NTA News Now. The hashtag is #BizX. We value your feedback. Do join us again on Wednesday at 3 p.m. for another package. I am Benny Adams saying stay safe.
Information is power. Everyone wants power. So feel powerful with the NTA News mobile app, the one-stop information center. Real news at your fingertip. Be the first to report by uploading first-hand information on the U-Report link, and be the first to know by simply clicking on any of the links on the sidebar for headlines, domestic and foreign news, economy, security, politics, sports, and more. Stream live on your smartphone and tablets and stay connected. It's pretty easy. Simply download NTA News app from your Google Play Store and you're good to go. NTA News mobile app, your access to real-time information.
Lives are in your hands while you drive. Protect yourself and others on the road. Road Matters, shown on the network service of the NTA. Join us.
NTA News. When the news breaks, we mend it and present it without blemish. NTA News, authentic and authoritative.
You can follow us on all our social media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online. Or visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.nta.ng/live. Now, you can stay updated on the go, be it on your TV, iPhone, laptop, or iPad, or download the NTA mobile application from your Play Store or App Store. NTA, you can beat the rich.
This is the network service of the NTA. We now join our outside broadcast crew for a live telecast. Please stay tuned.
Please be seated. Please, can we all settle down? Those of us at the door, please, can you kindly walk in and find yourself somewhere to sit? Please, can we clear the exit doors? We have extra seats upstairs at the gallery. If you don't have a seat, please kindly find your way upstairs to the gallery. distinguished senators and honorable members of the House of Representatives, our special guest of honor, His Excellency, Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, our host, the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, heads of government agencies and parastatals under the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, chief operating officers and top management staff of NNPC, captains of industries, stakeholders in the oil and gas industry, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you, and on behalf of the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, and in my capacity as the MC, it's my distinct honor and pleasure to warmly welcome you to this hybrid event, the official launch of the Nigerian Upstream Cost Optimization Program, NUCOP. In NNPC, safety is of utmost priority to us, and we continue to foster an uncompromising organizational culture of safety first, which means safety always. On this note, I'd like to kindly urge you to direct your attention to the screen in front of you as we take a safety moment. Can we have the safety brief, please?
Welcome to the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation NNPC headquarters, Abuja. In NNPC, safety is accorded highest priority. Hence our fundamental value to the safety-first culture. Therefore, on the commencement of all gathering, safety brief is carried out to acquaint all attendees with our safety and emergency procedures on how everyone should respond in case of an emergency. This office complex is made up of 4 towers, A, B, C, and D. You are seated at the amphitheater located on the first floor of Tower A. The restrooms are located outside the amphitheater. They are all clearly marked. The amphitheater is made up of 2 floors. The first floor and the gallery.
Test the mic. Test the mic.
Leads to the staircase. Should the alarm sound,
I should continue.
you must exit this room without delay and calmly. The exit doors are all clearly marked. And once outside the amphitheater, proceed gently to the staircase. As you make your descent to the ground floor, you will go through 1 floor, as this building includes a mezzanine floor. Ensure you hold the handrail when making your descent. Please do not use the lift during an emergency, as it is unsafe to do so. Once outside the building, proceed to your designated muster point, where you will be further briefed. The physically challenged will be evacuated to the muster point by the safety warden. Should you require a first aid medical assistance, there is a clinic located at the ground floor of Tower A. Please remember to comply with the safety procedures. In NNPC, your safety is our highest priority. Thank you for your time. Have a very good meeting and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much for that safety brief. Once again, it gives me great
Nigerian Upstream Cost Optimization Program on the Nigerian Television Authority. The Nigerian Upstream Cost Optimization Program is an industry-wide initiative mainly designed to optimize Nigeria's upstream operating expenses through process enhancement and industry collaboration. This is to ensure improved and sustainable profitability for all stakeholders. It is initiated by the Group Managing Director of NNPC, Mele Kolo Kiari, in line with Mr. President's mandate.
Presence of the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Engineer Simbi Wabote. We also have here present one of the NNPC board members, Mrs. Lami Ahmed. Permit me to recognize the presence of the Chief Operating Officer, Upstream, Engineer Adoki Tombome, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, and fellow Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers. I'd like to recognize the presence of the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Umar Ajia, the Chief Operating Officer, Ventures and Business Development, Engineer Yemi Adetunji, Chief Operating Officer, Gas and Power, Engineer Yusuf Usman, Chief Operating Officer, Refineries and Petrochemical, Engineer Mustafa Yakubu, and the Chief Operating Officer, Corporate Services, Mr. Mohammed Abdul Kabir Ahmed. Also ably representing the Chief of Naval Staff is the Rear Admiral Y.B. Wamba. He's here representing the Chief of Naval Staff. You're most welcome, sir. I'd also like to recognize the presence of Honorable Nicholas Mutu, Chairman House Committee on Gas. I'd like to recognize all our guests that have joined us physically and virtually today. My name is Reiki Asambo, and it gives me ample pleasure to be your moderator this beautiful morning. Today, we're visibly gathered here to witness the official launch of the Nigerian Upstream Cost Optimization Program. NUCOP. NUCOP is an industry-wide initiative designed to optimize Nigeria's upstream operating expenses through process enhancements and industry collaboration to ensure improved profitability for all stakeholders. And to formally kick off our event this morning, it's my pleasure to invite the Chief Operating Officer Upstream, Engineer Adoki Tombomie, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, fellow Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers, to deliver his welcome address. CEO, sir.
Good morning, all. It's so difficult to establish a protocol that has not been done. Members of the National Chairman of the Senate Committee Upstream and Chairman House Committee Upstream, the special guest of honor and the Honorable Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, my own uncle and brother, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Petroleum Resources, the chief host, my friend, my brother, my boss, the GMD of NNPC, Balamele Kiari, heads of agencies of government present here, the members of NNPC board present here, the chief of naval staff, ably represented by Rear Admiral Y.B. Wambai, my own brother, the executive secretary of NCDMB, stakeholders of the oil and gas industry, my colleagues, the CEOs and management and staff of NNPC, captains of industry, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. We acknowledge your presence this morning despite the pressures of the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. This further demonstrates your commitment of sustaining oil and gas operations in Nigeria. It will be recalled that last year, the oil and gas industry was challenged by an array of unprecedented events, notably the plunge in oil revenues as a result of global glut in supply and consequent crash in the crude oil prices arising from the COVID-19 pandemic. These events significantly impacted realizable revenue streams from the sale of crude oil, which for a long time has remained the major foreign exchange earner for Nigeria. In view of the demand uncertainty and depressing prices, OPEC and OPEC Plus agreed on the 12th of April to cut production by 9.7 million barrels per day, which took effect from the 1st of May 2020. It was later tapered to about 7.7 million barrels per day, effective from 1st of July to the 31st of December 2020. There was a further reduction to 5.8 million barrels, which is taking effect from January 2021 up to April 2022. These prevailing circumstances occasioned the need for NNPC to cut down production costs for business continuity as crude oil sold at below cost. Hence, the dynamic GMD of NNPC issued a directive that unit operating cost called UOC should be reduced to suboptimal of $10 per barrel. As part of the cost reduction initiatives, we identified the main cost drivers, amongst others which were human resources, logistics, security, direct lifting, operating maintenance, and public affairs. These cost drivers accounted for about 80% and 60% of the joint venture and the PSC operating costs, respectively. These were identified. A clear roadmap for the reduction of these cost elements will champion our resolve towards achieving an overall reduction of the unit operating cost, which ultimately will improve our bottom line. Several engagements have been held with industry players at different fora, but to further entrench the aspiration of the GMD's TAPE agenda, which is transparency, accountability, and performance excellence, there was need for a wider industry engagement, which has necessitated this gathering. This commitment will avail NNPC the opportunity to cooperate with its partners in order to avail the Nigerian Upstream Cost Optimization Program, popularly called NUCOP. This is the sole objective of optimizing the upstream operation cost through process enhancement and collaboration within the industry. The successful implementation of this laudable initiative will further support the execution excellent drive of the GMD from what he popularly referred to as PowerPoint into actions. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this unique occasion. On behalf of the GMD and staff of management of NNPC, we welcome you all and I wish you a fruitful deliberation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Adoki Tumbomie, Chief Operating Officer Upstream, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, and fellow Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers. Permit me to once again recognize the esteemed presence of Senator James Manager, Chairman, Senate Committee on Gas. You're most welcome, sir. I'd like to recognize the presence of Dr. Tajuddin Umar. He's one of the NNPC board members. You're most welcome, sir. And permit me to recognize the gentlemen of the press. Once again, you're welcome to this occasion. At this juncture, I'd like to very diligently and most respectfully invite the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Mr. Mele Kyari, to give us his opening remarks. JMD, sir.
Thank you very much, Rakia. I don't know where to start from, except to do the right thing, which is to recognize the presence of distinguished Senator Albert, the Chairman Senate Committee of Stream, and also distinguished Senator James Manager, Chairman, Senate Committee on Gas, and other members of the National Assembly present here. I also humbly recognize the presence of my boss, and the Honourable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timothy Silva, and my brother also. I think I need to add this. And distinguished members of the board of the NNPC present here, and the rest of them have connected online. Also, my younger brother, I think I have a right to say this, Simbi, and the difference is clear. He's ordinary father, I'm a grandfather. Heads of parastatals of government present here, particularly those of them from the Petroleum Ministry. Our partners, led by the chairman of OPTS, Mike, you're welcome, and everybody else that I can see, too numerous to mention. But I can also see the country chair of Shell, who has come out with his marks to join us. And also the representative of Chief of Naval Staff, very critical to mention this because we all know that there are issues around security in our areas of operation. We're very profoundly grateful for the Chief of Naval Staff to send Rear Admiral Wambai to join us and extend our best of regards to the Chief of Naval Staff. Other stakeholders in the industry, particularly the service industry, represented by Peter and others, and all other sectoral representations that we have in this place. My colleagues, CEOs of NNPC and all other management staff, all the body of NNPC staff, many of whom have joined us online, and also other captains of industry, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I know this protocol is long. I welcome you most profoundly on behalf of the entire NNPC family. And let me also ride on what my brother and my friend, Doke, has said around why we're here. First, let me make it clear that we are drawing this initiative from the background of the directive of government to the Honourable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources that we must pull down our cost of operations. And that's part of the deliverables that the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources has to pull down the cost of operation. It also an informed self-interest pursuit for all of us. First, as we all know what's happening around energy transitions and the things that are happening globally, the choices that our consumers have, the choices that investors have across the world, there is nowhere in the world where a less cost-efficient operator can survive. So it's not possible anymore. So you cannot produce $50 oil and survive today. That's not possible. You can do that in 2007 and 2008, but today it is impossible for you to continue to operate and be competitive. And competition means you are able to reduce as the least cost possible in the most efficient manner. And also, you have an environment that enables you to have margin from your investment. And you can't do all this without having the right security architecture around your business, particularly in this country. And the combination of this has made it clearly difficult for us to have a competitive business environment. There are a number of issues around synergy which we are not able to achieve over the years. And now it has become much more expedient to deliver on this. There are a number of taxation systems and processes that we have in place that sometimes compete with each other that we need to resolve. There are issues around security that all of us are setting up armies of our own to protect our assets. That can't continue. First, it is expensive, and they are also inefficient. We do deliver a number of services to the industry by our partners. First, our service community are not able to plan around our business. We do many things that ordinarily should be done collectively. It's done in very many jurisdictions, yet accommodating everybody in the loop, not discarding, but also introducing the efficiencies. And also businesses are also deliver in a cost-effective manner. Even for our contractors, sometimes our practices make it difficult for them to deliver cost-efficient services to us. And that is clearly an issue that we'll have to respond as an industry in order for us to remain competitive. We'll deliver our national objective of promoting growth in our economy, growth in our local capacities, and ultimately also our business partners who are putting their money to make sure that this works for all of us will get back with a reasonable margin. And that's unavoidable completely. No one will put his money as a CSR, and I've always said this to our partners, that we don't see you as CSR, we see you as a business. And businesses come to invest so that they can make benefit from it, and they have a choice. the choice is between the options that they have. Why must I do it here if I'm going to make $1 out of every $100 I invest here when I can go next door and make $10 out of it? There's no compelling reason for anyone to stay and do business with you. That is the condition. And the only way to stop that is to cut down on costs, become more efficient. You have the best of fiscal framework that you have in the country. And of course, overall, there's an assurance of security of staff, personnel, and our assets. So that's why we are here, to see that, take that collaboration forward. We're already seeing the value of those collaborations in the sense that cost of production, the operating cost has gone down substantially since the start of the agenda that you asked us to deliver. And our target is to come to a unit operating cost of a maximum of $10 to the barrel. And this is possible. This is within sight. And with the collaboration that you can see from the presence of our colleagues, some of whom have joined us online, particularly, let me recognize the MD of ExxonMobil, who has joined us online, and also Crystal, the MD of Equinor, who is also an operator. I'm sure that she has joined us online. Others are physically here present, and therefore, ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you here. This is task that must be done. These are very tough times for the industry. We agree completely. Even for our country, they are very, very difficult times. And this partnership will help us support our country, support our businesses, and ultimately exit some of the troubles that we have around our businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And I'm sure you must have seen a number of newspaper conversations around price of petroleum. Well, I'm sure we're all happy here that crude oil has hit the $60 mark by yesterday, and probably growing, but certainly not going beyond this voodoo game. We don't see it crossing the 65 mark. We said 60, now we have reached 60, so we're getting to 65. But it comes with its consequences. One of it is that it impacts on the price of finished petroleum product anywhere in the world, including our country. And this is a tough challenge that we are dealing with to make sure that we're able to keep this country wet despite all the challenges. We have a clear directive of government to regulate the downstream sector. Engagements are going on with labor so that we have a structure that will ensure that there is no exploitation of the ordinary person by the vagaries of the market. And we are going to close that conversation with labor. And as we do this, we'll continue to manage the situation. But obviously, there's no provision for subsidy in this year's appropriation budget. Evidently, we'll cross this and we'll put everything behind us so that this country will live better for all of us. Otherwise, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, GMD. I think the GMD deserves another round of applause. Permit me to recognize the presence of the Senior Special Advisor to the President on National Assembly Matters, Mr. Umar El Yaqub. You're most welcome, sir. I'd like to recognize the presence of the presidents of Pengasin and Nupeng, Festus Yusifo and Williams Akoreha. You're most welcome. In my favorite words, I would say we have reached the crescendo of this auspicious gathering, and to officially launch NUCOP and to give the keynote address with all sense of humility, I'd like to welcome to the podium a special guest of honor, His Excellency, the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timipre Silva. Your Excellency, sir. Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll be taking a video, and the video will be introducing us to NUCOP, the Nigerian Upstream Cost Optimization Program.
Is endowed with abundant resources and potentials, with the oil and gas industry currently standing as one of its most important industry contributes about 10% of the nation's GDP, over 90% of exports, while accounting for 80% of the federal government's revenue. With reserves of approximately 37 billion barrels of crude oil and 203 trillion cubic feet of gas, an average daily production of 2 million barrels of oil per day, and 8 billion standard cubic feet of gas daily, Nigeria has the capacity to generate 48 gigawatts of electricity from gas. However, Nigeria currently generates 4 gigawatts of electricity, a performance gap that requires optimization. Nigeria can only sustain production of oil and gas for the next 40 years and 60 years respectively, without additional increase in reserve. It is noteworthy that almost 90% of wells in the onshore and swamp are less than 15,000 in depth, largely because they were drilled in the 80s and 90s using 2D seismic data. Armed with newer technologies and a deeper horizon, Nigeria may discover additional reserves, thus ensuring sustainability and the country's energy security. Despite its vast resources, geographical advantage, and large market, Nigeria's oil and gas industry is plagued with high cost of operations due to lack of synergy within the industry and protracted contracting cycle, amongst other issues. Consequently, the industry has become uncompetitive, unprofitable, and ultimately unsustainable.
On inauguration as Minister of State Petroleum, 9 mandate areas were handed to me by Mr. President, one of which is to ensure the reduction of operation costs in the oil and gas industry. This mandate was accentuated by President Muhammad Buhari recently at the commissioning of the Oil and Gas Excellence Center in Lagos. A set target for the attainment of sub $10 per barrel unit operating costs led to the identification of the upstream main cost drivers: HR, logistics, security, direct lifting, operation maintenance, and public affairs.
With an indicative price of $50 per barrel, joint venture operational expenditure constitutes about $22. Capital expenditure, $12 per barrel. And after all statutory deductions, the shareholders are left with a paltry profit of $1.4 per barrel. This represents a distorted cost structure. For an industry positioning for growth, capital expenditure ought to be more than operational expenditure. This also buttresses the fact that the industry is unprofitable with unsustainable operating costs. The West African Median Unit Operating Cost, UOC, is about $9.4 per barrel, whereas Nigeria's aggregate unit operating cost stands at $13 per barrel, with the national target, UOC, pegged at sub $10 per barrel.
There's no way you increase value when you spend more money than you need to do on production process. That's what has been happening, and that is because there's absolute lot of synergy in the industry. And what we're bringing on the table is to make sure that we pull down this cost. Once you're able to pull down the cost, your tax revenues will increase. Also, your margin on the production will also increase. And ultimately, the shareholders will benefit from it materially.
A deep dive into the UOC structure indicates that human resource, logistics, and direct handling costs represent about 70% of total operational expenditure for the industry. If these major cost drivers are optimized, it would substantially reduce the OPEX and achieve the national target of $10 per barrel. A breakdown of HR cost indicates staff costs and emoluments constitutes about 74% of the total cost, whilst a closer look into logistics cost indicates that marine, aviation, and procurement and contracting are the key drivers, representing approximately 70% of the cost. Furthermore, analysis of direct crude handling costs shows a continuous increase over the last 8 years from $2.65 average in 2012 to $4.3 average in 2020. This rise in cost is irrespective of market realities. Underlying all these costs is the protracted contracting cycle. NNPC has a mandate to achieve 6 months contracting cycle. However, it currently takes an average of 18 months to process a contract. In the last 6 years, NAPEMS has processed an average of 1,567 contracts, which is enormous considering we are not a contracting company. The industry needs to put measures in place to debottleneck the contracting cycle to achieve the 6 months mandate and reduce the volume of contract processed in the industry.
Doing this also enables you to create more employment, more opportunities, so that companies can now focus on assets that are able to produce optimally. They're also able to invest intelligently, unlike what we're doing today, where we invest on other assets that probably don't bring any value on the table. And by doing this, you're going to expand opportunities so that companies will now see that this company is serious about making sure that alignment is obtained in the industry.
If Nigeria is not to allocate more funds to capital expenditure in the oil and gas industry, then the future of the industry is bleak. On the other hand, a 50% reduction in the personal expenditure can yield up to 100% increase in profitability. Thus, the industry must do everything to reduce operating costs in order to improve returns to its shareholders.
Oil is a commodity, it's a commodity business. I mean, it's a global business. So, given that there's been a decline in demand, then the oil which will be produced or which will be produced profitably, is the oil which is the lowest cost. So, I think, a lot of the OPTS members and my own company have been trying to focus on low cost oil. There's no shortage of oil. The focus now is making sure that we can produce the oil the most cost effective we can, and that's the only way to be profitable.
To ensure the sustainability of the oil and gas industry and increased profit to shareholders and investors, Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timmy Press Silver, hereby launches the Nigeria Upstream Cost Optimization Program, NUCOP, with an objective of optimizing upstream operation costs through process enhancement and industry collaboration to ensure improved and sustainable profitability.
Industry experts will be required to engage under the Nigerian Upstream Cost Optimization Program, NUCOP, to champion several initiatives that will support our cost reduction aspiration and set a path towards achieving an overall reduction of unit operating cost, whilst ultimately improving our bottom line. The successful implementation of this laudable initiative in 2021 will further support the execution excellence drive to move from words to action.
The NNPC developed the following strategies for optimization of OPEX. 1. To address marine and helicopter logistics and security costs, which are driven mainly by helicopter and vessel count. NNPC is proposing clustering of contracts per location and co-sharing of services for marine vessels and helicopters. Also, and placing longer duration call-off contracts for each cluster. So, operators within each cluster will use the same contracts and share services, thereby reducing the UOC. Furthermore, to optimize crude handling charges, which is the key driver of direct handling cost, NNPC proposes renegotiating the existing crude handling agreements, CHA, to ensure they are dynamic and reflective of market realities.
So the major challenge in the Nigerian oil and gas industry is really about the cost of doing business. And in 2020, we did do a very, very deep dive into the base of our costs. And we looked at all the different cost buckets that we have. And we made sure that we could effectively cut down costs without endangering value. And because of that, we're in such a robust and stable position for the start of 2021.
The corporation will initiate in-situ utilization of hydrocarbon and produced water to optimize procurement and contracting costs. driven largely by inventory and warehouse management. NNPC proposes the automation of the inventory management system via NIPEX. This will serve as an inventory exchange platform for surplus inventory to all operators. It also ensures proper oversight of the inventory in warehouse across the industry, therefore promoting efficiency and cost savings. Lastly, to optimize the protracted contracting cycle, NNPC proposes joint decoupled one-off upfront comprehensive technical evaluation process. JDOACTEP simply means that, going forward, the technical phase is to be decoupled and conducted upfront on a continuous basis irrespective of the availability of opportunity. NUCA will yield the following benefits to all stakeholders in the industry. 1. The reduction of UOC will increase profit to shareholders and investors. 2. Clustering in co-sharing of contracts and services will increase synergy amongst operators, reduce cost, and reduce the volume of contracts processed by the industry. Also, the JDOACTEP and emplacement of long-term call-off contracts will reduce our contracting cycle to 3 months or less, thereby freeing up man-hours and resources for other key activities. Finally, NUCAP will promote efficiency and standardization of costs, increase profitability, enhance ability to compete amongst our peers, and make the Nigerian oil and gas industry more attractive to investors.
Definitely, by the end of this year, we'll see significant change in the cost structure of the industry. It's already showing up, and we think that the $10 per barrel unit technical cost is realizable by the end of this year, having all these engagements that are going on and the decisions that we're making as an industry. And doing that means, more activity. Once you have more activity, you're able to increase your production, and you're also able to increase your reserves as we plan. So definitely there's an obvious connection between aligning your procurement processes, your planning process with the overall objectives that you're going to achieve. And I think they're connected, and they will be realized ultimately.
To ensure successful implementation and execution excellence of NUCA, a collaborative governance structure comprising all stakeholders at various levels will be inaugurated under the sponsorship of the GND, overseen by the COO Upstream and GGM NAPEMS. The success of NUCA is dependent on effective and efficient collaboration amongst all the stakeholders to design and implement the proposed initiative. I am assured that with the successful implementation and execution excellence of NUCA, the Nigerian oil and gas industry will achieve a contracting cycle of 6 months or less, UOC of SAP $10/BBL, therefore making us more efficient, effective, profitable, sustainable, and competitive. Nigeria, Africa's largest oil producer, is in fact.
Thank you very much for the very insightful video. You must agree with me that it has dissected the Nigerian upstream cost optimization program. Moving on, it is my singular honor to humbly invite our special guest of honor, His Excellency, the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timi Silva, for his keynote address and to officially launch the Nigerian Upstream Cost Optimization Program. Please, a huge round of applause for him.
I'm sure you will agree with me that everything that needs to be said has been said, especially in the video. Members of the National Assembly, especially the chairman of the Senate Committee on Upstream, and my brother, the one that we have to all take some advice on management from. Senator James Manager, the chairman of the House Committee, Upstream, members of the NNPC board, the chief host, my brother, the GMD of NNPC, Malam Mele Kiare, heads of ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government, including those under the Ministry of Petroleum, especially the Executive Secretary of the NCDMB, the representative of the Chief of Naval Staff, stakeholders in the oil and gas industry, CEOs and COOs, and top management of NNPC, captains of industry, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm very delighted to be part of this important occasion for the launching of the Nigerian Upstream Cost Optimization Program, NUCOP, aimed at optimizing our upstream operation expenses through process enhancement and industry collaboration. You will recall that one of the top 9 priority areas given to the Ministry of Petroleum Resources under the next level agenda of Mr. President is the reduction in crude oil extraction costs. At the Ministry of Petroleum Resources Ministerial Retreat held in late 2019, we identified some initiatives to tackle the challenges of high cost of crude oil extraction in Nigeria. The major cost drivers identified as contributing to the high cost of crude oil production in Nigeria when compared to low production cost countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia can be classified under 5 dimensions: capital expenditure items, operational costs, systemic cost factors, costs associated with contracting procedures, and policy-related elements. A further diagnostic of these cost drivers revealed that the bane of high production cost profile in Nigeria include the following: lack of proper project definition, weak collaboration and standardization, capacity and capability issues, security-related issues, facility reliability and uptime limitations, financing and payment delays, the single sourcing syndrome, high crude oil handling charges, high magnitude of crude oil loss, over-regulation, bureaucracy, and multiplicity of tariffs, excessive expenses, and bogus owners' project management team costs. In line with the commitment of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration to address these issues, Mr. President recently commissioned the National Oil and Gas Excellence Center in Lagos. We have also put in place an industry standing committee to monitor NNPC, DPR, NCDMB, IPPG, OPTS, and PTAN. The committee has made significant progress in finding short and medium-term solutions. I will mention some of the measures already taken. Designed the template to collate the unit technical cost and unit development cost of production by oil field and by operating companies in order to identify cost-efficient operators. Instituted a monitoring system in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources to track cost trend and carry out cost benchmarks between Nigeria and other oil-producing countries, especially those with low production cost profile. Established protocol for direct interface with operating companies to monitor their compliance with cost reduction directives. Creation of an industry cost efficiency ICE program by major operating companies aimed at unlocking cost optimization opportunities, including improving supply chain efficiency for inventory management, application of shared services for logistics and security, optimization of their in-house contract approval processes, amongst other initiatives. It is important to emphasize that these efforts have made some impact in driving down crude oil production costs, but we still have a long way to go. Currently, the average total cost per barrel is now below $30 for the joint venture agreement and below $20 per barrel for the production sharing contracts. We need to do some heavy liftings, not only to get to the optimal band of unit operating costs, but to also sustain it as part of our way of doing business. Today's engagement session with industry stakeholders is part of the resolve of this administration to confront this challenge. I expect robust discussions and a realistic roadmap to achieve the cost optimization objectives. In this regard, I expect today's engagement to reach a landing on some of the key recommendations that have evolved from the efforts of the Industry Standing Committee on Cost Reduction, which include the case for increasing threshold value for JV and PSC contracts, the case for shared services and extending contract duration for certain big-ticket contracts, such as marine logistics, drilling, and aviation services to drive capacity development. Value for money spending, including challenging the mindset that make contractors default to quoting higher figures while tendering for oil and gas contracts. Harmonization of NIPEX and NCDMB supplier database, improving vendor categorization and enhancing the application of the e-marketplace. Consideration for service level agreements between NAPIMs and operators, like the existing SLAs between NCDMB and industry operators. Institution of ministerial recognition and reward system for cost-efficient producers. I must emphasize that achieving cost reduction is also enhanced by delivering our growth aspiration of 40 billion barrels of oil reserves and 3 million barrels per day production. Thus, we are working assiduously to address other structural, fiscal and governance issues in the industry, including domestic utilization of produced oil to obviate export restrictions. We are at the point of addressing one of the uncertainties around the industry caused by long-drawn processes related to the passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill. I wish to assure you from a vantage position that the executive is on the same page with the legislature on the need for the expeditious passage of an investor-friendly petroleum industry bill within 2021. I'm looking at you, Chairman. I hope I'm speaking your mind. In conclusion, I want to appreciate all stakeholders, IOCs, IPPG, NMPC, NCDMB, DPR, service companies, and indeed the Ministry of Petroleum Resources for their positive disposition towards a collective effort to position Nigeria as a preferred destination for investors in the hydrocarbon value chain. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic provides a great opportunity for us to push the reset button on the various aspects of the Nigerian oil and gas industry. I look forward to your sound recommendations and action plan from this engagement session. I assure you of my commitment to provide every support for all new measures that will take us to our desired destination. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much to our special guest of honor, His Excellency, the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timi Pray Silva. Please, can we free our hands and give him the warmest round of applause as he walks back to his seat? I'd like to recognize the presence of the Chairman House Committee Downstream, ably represented by Honorable Kasimu Bello Megeri. You're most welcome, sir. May I once again invite to the podium the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Mr. Mele Kyari. JMD, sir.
Thank you very much. Just to recognize the presence of Nupeng and President of Vegas, my two younger brothers, Festus and William. I know you'll be very, very interested in this conversation. As we all know, when you talk of OPEX, the people are the greater part of the OPEX. And we all need to collaborate and manage that relationship to make sure that this industry survives for the interests of all of us. All of us are employees of the industries. Even the non-Pengas and non-Pen members are part of it. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming. And the Honourable Minister also graciously wants to say a few words after the rest of the people have made the comments. He will close those comment session of this engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, GMD. We'll be switching gears a bit and we'll be taking remarks by key industry players. And the first remarks will be taken by the Chairman, Senate Committee Upstream, Senator Basi Akpan.
The Chairman, Senate Committee on Gas, and the Manager of the Senate, Senator James Manager, the Chairman, House Committee on Upstream, represented here, the Minister, my brother GMD, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me, on behalf of our dear Senate President, Senator Ahmad Lawan, welcome you to this gathering. Like they say, necessity is the mother of invention. A couple of weeks back, we were in Lagos, where the President actually launched the Oil and Gas Excellence Center by the DPR. And the objective of that launch was based on the need to holistically harmonize the cost structure in the upstream oil and gas industry, championed by DPR. Here we are again, invited by the GMD to equally witness the synchronization of this same issue, which depicts the fact that it is better late than never. Listening to the GMD, the CEO upstream, as well as the minister, I think there is a general consensus by each and every one of us that there is a need to take a second look at our upstream cost structure. I believe the pandemic has provided this platform. Like the GMD are clearly stated, there is no reasonable investor that will still be looking at existence in this industry at a $50 production cost structure. We believe as members of the National Assembly that the real essence, we must come to terms with this fact, is to pay greater attention to the passage of the PIB. And we want to assure this gathering that this 9th Assembly, headed by Senator Ahmad Lawan, will pass this PIB before the end of April 2021. We have set these timelines for ourselves as a body because, like they say, what gets measured gets done. And we have provided clearly defined timelines to enable us to meet these set targets. Listening to the GMD, listening to the minister and the CEO upstream, we all understand the need to look at our tax structure and the, as well as security challenges in the oil and gas sector. Yes, when we were in Lagos, we were all equally told by DPR and the minister, as well as Mr. President, on the need for the relevant stakeholders to harmonize their logistic structure. And here we are again, the need to streamline and equally harmonize security and that tax structure as part of our cost reduction objective has been clearly defined. As a Senate and National Assembly, we want to assure you that the real essence of our taking a second look at the PIB this time with all amount of seriousness is the need to update all our obsolete and outdated oil and gas laws, which has been overtaken by events, as well as the need to consolidate all existing oil and gas legislation into a single document for ease of understanding and implementation. Let me assure each and every one of you, I think I'll be speaking the minds of the Chairman Senate Committee on Gas Resources, as well as other distinguished colleagues in the National Assembly, that we'll do everything utmost possible to ensure that we pass a bill, not just a law, but a law that will be globally competitive, a law that will meet all clarity standards, and a law that will be easy to implement, and most significantly, a law that will drive the much desired investment into our oil and gas industry. So I thank you all for inviting us to witness this auspicious discussion, and I want to assure you that we'll work with all of you as well as the executive to ensure that we leave this oil and gas industry far better than we met it. Thank you, and God bless each and every one of us in Jesus' name.
Thank you very much. The Chairman, Senate Committee, Upstream, Senator Basi Apan. To take the next remarks, I will be inviting the Executive Secretary, Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Engineer Simbi Wabote. A round of applause for him, please.
The members of the National Assembly, talking about the array of junior brothers and younger brothers. My younger brother, distinguished Senator Basi Akpan. I only bow when I get to the National Assembly to him, but anytime he's out of there, it's my younger brother. My distinguished Senator James Manager, my daughter was asking me that since I knew you've been a manager, when are you going to be James Director? Welcome. Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, my boss, and my dear friend, related grandfather, the GMD of NNPC. Captains of industry, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think this gathering is long overdue. When you look around, I recall in my days in Shell when the likes of Osagi entrusted in me the responsibility to pursue and drive down cost. And I started working that process from Shell and also collaborating with the industry. I recall then with the Ministry of Petroleum Resources and also NNPC, which led to at some point we established a committee which I was leading. Then the advisor on petroleum resources, Emmanuel Iboga, of late blessed memory, was leading that effort. We set up a team to look at how to lean the process in order to drive down costs. So, in short, this is part of my DNA now, and I really appreciate this, GMD and the team. I can assure you that for us in NCDMB, we will collaborate effectively to see how we drive down costs in our business. And be rest assured that you have recruited an additional soldier to go through this process. I also recognize our brothers from Pengassin and Nupeng. Cost reduction comes with some pain, as well as comes with some pleasure. The pain, of course, will be felt, but what's important is how the business will survive. Because if the business does not survive, then we will all perish. Therefore, we must come together to be able to go through the process of cost reduction while also recognizing the need to balance our requirements in country where we continue to sustain jobs, as well as continue to use our locally built capacities in order to drive down cost. I've always been an advocate who believes that local content, from where I stand, is a panacea for cost reduction. And examples abound today. If you look at the hall, some years back, you would have seen a lot of expatriates in this hall driving our business. But today, you have managing directors of most of the IOCs, not to talk of the IPPG group that will boast of 99.9% of Nigerians managing that business. I did an analysis internally trying to compare payments that were given to expats as opposed to Nigeria in terms of a study. I discovered the massive cost savings because we have Nigerians running some of these establishments. Therefore, there is no debate about the benefits of local content. We must continue to drive that because, as the saying goes, if you think education is expensive, try illiteracy, and then you will see the consequence of that. Just to bolt that back, As we drive costs, we must continue to ensure that we sustain the jobs for our people, and we must continue to ensure that we get the best to be within this industry. Therefore, on behalf of myself and the entire NCDMP team, I wish to assure the GMD and the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources that we are all committed to this mandate by our dear President. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Engineer Simbi Wabote. To take the next remark, I will be inviting the Chairman, All Producers Trade Section, OPTS, Mr. Mike Sangster.
Good morning. To the Honourable Senators here present, Chairman of the Upstream Committee and the Gas Committee, to the Honourable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, and to the Group Managing Director of NNPC, and to our previous wonderful speaker, the Executive Secretary of NCDMB. Good morning, welcome everyone. Please allow me to stand on existing protocol at that point, if I may. Well, thanks very much for this opportunity to attend the event this morning and to speak to you. I think it's a very great initiative. I commend the Minister and the GMD for having taken together all the stakeholders this morning to talk about this very important issue. You know, we've all been talking quite a lot recently about the industry in Nigeria and the lack of investment that we think we've seen over recent years. You know, the analysis that we have done indicates that of $70 billion committed to upstream projects in Africa over the past 5 years, only $3 billion came to Nigeria, which just doesn't seem right. Given what we've seen this morning in the presentation about the potential of the resources, then there's something which is not right, which is not working. And there are two areas which I think really need to be addressed. First one is obviously the petroleum industry bill, and we've heard from many speakers this morning, I think, about the efforts being made to pass the petroleum industry bill in the 9th Assembly. And again, speaking on behalf of the industry, it's very encouraging to hear many speakers before me talk about putting in place a competitive fiscal system, a competitive PIB, which is win-win for the country and for the industry. So we very much welcome that initiative. Then I think the second area where we see a need to change as well is in the costs. And again, it's very encouraging to see that the analysis done by NNPC lines up with that, which I think many of the industry players have done as well, where Nigeria is at the moment quite a high-cost place to do business, and where the ease of doing business, probably could be improved. So again, I think this New COP initiative really, hits the right note. So the PIB is looking after the overall fiscal framework, the overall legislative framework, and I think this new COP will go a long way to addressing the costs. And I think some of the issues that were raised, I think already this morning in the various presentations, I think there's some very key points there that I would like to emphasize. We do see quite a lot of different fees and taxes and levies on the industry, and I'm sure I heard the Minister say that's something that needs to be addressed. Security and theft obviously is an issue, and again, it's good to see a representative from the Navy as well, because that's an issue I'm sure we can all work together on. And I think improved collaboration from the industry, I think, as well, is an area where we can all strive to do better. And some of the items that were mentioned, I'm sure on logistics and so on, are areas that we can work on. So I think it's a very good idea to bring us all together today, all the stakeholders, and again, recognise, my colleague from Pengasan and Nupeng this morning. They all need to work together to find a way to make the industry more efficient and more cost-effective. I think some ideas about shortening the contracting cycle, I think, is very important. Lengthening the duration of contracts as well, I believe, would really help to drive efficiency. And I think also raising the ceiling, I think, of approvals within the production sharing contracts and the joint ventures as well, I think would very much help. So again, just thanks again for this initiative. I think it's a very, commendable idea to bring us all together, to drive some ideas. And I think myself, as chairman of OPTS, I think on behalf of all my colleagues, here today, we very much look forward to working with the ministry and with NNPC to find a way to drive down the cost and to help, drive back again that investment in the upstream business in Nigeria, which I think is for everyone's benefit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Chairman of All Producers Trade Section, Mr. Mike Sangster. At this point, I would like to warmly invite the Chairman, Independent Petroleum Producers Group, Engineer Ademola Adeyemi-Bero.
Good morning. Distinguished members of the National Assembly, the Chairman, Senate Committee Upstream, Chairman's House Committee Upstream, Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, the Group Managing Director of NNPC, and the Group Leadership of NNPC, fellow colleagues in the industry, and all members present here this morning. First, let me really say a big thank you to NNPC, but also to government for taking this cost initiative forward. For indigenous companies, I can say really upfront, and when I say indigenous companies, it's a wide spectrum: marginal field players, JV partners, and also those who operate PSCs. Because of our particular nuance, to get investments in, we need to have our costs in the right place. So this particular initiative is key for our survival. We borrow money, we fund our business through equity revenue that we make from our oil, but we also borrow money. And if the mix don't work, we're unable to borrow money. So, sir, this initiative is really for our survival. And I think I would say clearly that the indigenous companies are fully behind this and will play our part to make it happen. And we know we have a big part to play. Sometimes we are more interested in just buying getting the oil out and selling it, but we have to do it in the most cost-effective manner, and we know we have a responsibility there. But I'd like to touch on a few things that have been said. Collaboration is key. I think we and our colleagues in the international companies, the collaboration is getting better, and we know that we have to do a lot more. We have to share infrastructure in the ways we can, and they've talked about the process that needs to be improved. But I wanted to also touch on, when you look at the cost, you can split the cost into two buckets. There's what we control, and there's what we don't control. And the ones that we don't control, we also need to give that focus. And they're actually controlled by stakeholders who are not part of the oil and gas industry. But we use their services, we use their infrastructure, and hence we must feed and pay them. If I use an example of some of the wells we have drilled recently offshore, 20, 30, maybe even 35% of our cost is paying fees, which you sometimes don't really factor, but they're there because you're using logistics and you're moving through. You're paying NPA fees, you're paying all of these other fees that come to play. So as we look at cost, and I know my brother and our senior partner in the joint venture, we've talked about this. How do we look at the other cost that comes to our industry? And I'm saying it is not small. It could be up to 30, 35% if we don't manage it well. So the cost outside our control is something we should also spend time on, and we must. I want to also say that we're in a COVID world, and the COVID world is requiring us to heighten our mitigation to make sure that our operations don't suffer. If we have a COVID impact, we have to shut down operations. Costs will continue to be spent and incurred until we are out of that mitigation. And I think right now we are all doing it from the directives we've been given on our own. How do we collaborate? Because for anyone to go offshore, to go to any plant, has to go into quarantine, has to be tested before they go in and when they come out. And this is cost. And it's cost that we are all incurring in 2020. But I know that talking to our senior partners in NAPIMS, they're already asking us, how do we optimize this? So I just want to remind everyone that COVID will not go away this year, and it probably not go next year. The question is how do we make sure that that cost is managed in a collaborative way so we share the infrastructure that's needed to do this. I think transparency is one, and one of the things I will commit to our senior partners is we must make sure that we're transparent on cost. And I think one of the things that I always share with my colleagues in IPPG is we have to be transparent. We can't hide cost. We can't put cost at different levels. We have to make sure that our cost is very transparent. And I think probably more, that's what I think government would expect out of the indigenous companies. So we fully support this initiative. I wanted to add one more. GMD is absolutely right. We have to get unit operating cost to $10. But when you look at that, there are two sides to that. There's cost, there's production. So we must make sure that for every dollar we spend, we get more value for it. And what is that value? It's the production we make. So I don't want us to probably the operators in the industry, to NAPIMS, to MPDC, to all those who are involved in getting this oil out of the ground. How do we make sure that we use technology, we use all the right things that instead of getting 5,000 barrels a day for spending 10 million, can we get 20,000 barrels a day? Can we get 50,000 barrels a day? Because automatically, you start to even make the cost reduction even a lot better. So I wanted to put the production one on the table as well. And it's technology, it's efficient operations, and all of that. But I think if I end, is to say that we're fully committed to this, Honorable Minister of State. We're part of the initiative, and we'll continue to make sure that all we need to do, we do it efficiently. Thanks for inviting us, and I'm sure my colleagues around this room will agree that this is an initiative that we truly need. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Chairman, Independent Petroleum Producers Group, Engineer Ademola Adeyemi-Bero. So we have been sitting for 1 hour, 30 minutes, and in the NNPC tradition of safety first, I'd like us to kindly just stand up and stretch for 1 minute. So we can stretch our hands, stretch our legs. Sorry?
Because it's still working well. It's still working well.
We have 10 seconds to go. Five seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Please, may we all settle down. May we please settle down? Thank you. Take the next remarks. I would like to invite the Chairman, Petroleum Technology Association of Nigeria, PETAN, Mr. Nicholas Odinue. Please, can we give him a round of applause?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you to NMPC for this invitation to Petan. Petan welcomed this step that has been in the planning stage. And I'd like to thank the GMD and his team for making it work. It's long overdue. It's been long overdue. I remember that some years back, Petan and other stakeholders had tried to do something but stopped somewhere. But once again, thank you with your team and the Honorable Minister for making it, roll it out, and we hope that this time we're able to drive it and sustain it. Petan, like you know, is the premier oil and gas group that advocate for local service players to work in industry. Petan, like our South Asian colleagues and those in Middle East, believe in consultative and collaborative engagement with stakeholders. We like that there should be synergy with all stakeholders to make this initiative work. We like to see a simplified business process that will drive efficiency, including on-time payment to everybody involved in that chain, including bid reduction cycles and those protracted award delays. I was just talking to some people before we came to start this event. We have people still waiting for contracts to be awarded from 2018, 2016. And you know that such delays comes with costs because the contractor will somehow try to make sure that those delays are paid for one way or the other. We also think in Petan that there should be increased local content and capacity domestication to reduce cost of operations by local service providers. I'd like to talk about the last speaker who talked about crew change. Those of us in Petan, we've come together and put out a paper which most of our stakeholders will get. You find that if the industry comes together, the cost associated with crew change and quarantine will go. It does not take anything for the industry with the leadership of NMPC and the OPTS and all of our colleagues at NCDMB to come together and ensure that the industry will lead to source and bring the vaccines in for our crew that go offshore. Once we are on quarantine and they get the first jab, according to the medical people, get the first jab, and by the time you come back, you have the second jab. By the time you do that for the first 2 cycles, you eliminate that cost totally. So we have no need to quarantine people and spend so much money for logistics and hotels. And I think that in the next day or two, we will send that proposal to the stakeholders and see how this idea can be looked into. We believe that this will help reduce costs in the industry, since we're all trying to make sure that the petroleum industry survives. Thank you very much again for the invite.
Thank you very much, Chairman Petan, Mr. Nicholas Odunuwe. I would like to now warmly invite the Chairman Pengasid, Mr. Festus Sifo.
Chairman, Senate Committee on Upstream, and all other senators here present, the member of the House of Representatives here present, the Honorable Minister of Petroleum, GMD and NPC, captains of government agencies, and the private MDs. I wish to say good afternoon to us all. For us in Pengassan, we want to clearly state that what we are doing today is an initiative that Pengassan actually started several years ago. I could remember that in a lot of the IOCs, we have raised a lot of questions in some of the ways we've been doing our operations. And that now led to most of these IOCs setting up cost efficiency initiatives. I could remember that Chevron did something like that in the past. I could remember as well that ExxonMobil did something like that by setting up a team to look at their cost drivers. In Total as well, there was what was called the CI, the Cost Efficiency Initiative, that now later moved to what was referred to as 4C and D. So these were all some of the initiatives that have been taken in the past to reduce the cost of operations in the industry. And in Pengassan, we have raised a lot of subject areas. We have asked a lot of questions that has really optimized the cost of our operations over time. Yes, today, there is a need to do more. So we welcome the federal government, Federal Ministry of Petroleum, started several years ago. So for us, clearly, when we are looking at costs, at times we pay, I think I partner very well with the second to the last speaker that talked about the need for us not to be overtly fixated on cost, but the need for us to look at profit as well. Yes, it is good to reduce cost, but when we are reducing cost, we must look at operational efficiencies so that for every dollar we spend, what is the outcome? So because for us to have profit, that means we must generate revenue because the two parameters are actually the revenue and the cost. So we must look at both. Again, when the Honorable Minister started, I think when they showed him in the screen, the first thing that we heard about was the HRO cost. Yes, for us, we have asked a lot of questions about the HRO cost. You know, this morning I was with some of my colleagues, and we were looking at some scenarios. I asked them, when you were employed in your company, say about 10 years ago, bring the cost of, or rather, what was your salary? He stated it. What is your salary today? He stated it. Then I asked him, calculate that salary that you were earning 10, 12 years ago when you were employed, divide that salary by the conversion rate as at then. So when he did it, it came up to about $2,500. I asked him, this is the full emolument, the total pay, including loss of allowances. Then I asked, calculate today. When he did today, it was around $2,300. So what that means is that in 12 years, what he takes home at the end of a month has actually gone down. How did this happen? If you look at, for example, in 2016, early 2016, our exchange rate was about $1 to about 200 naira. Today, our exchange rate, we know what it is, close to 1 to 500, because the real
Yes. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I was telling you earlier on
about this project that is taking place here, the groundbreaking ceremony. You would, of course, have noticed that with the number of dignitaries here, we heard Nigeria's national anthem played. But not to worry, by the time this event kicks off officially, and at the time the President of the Federal Republic would be joining us on this groundbreaking ceremony, the anthem will be played once again at that time. This is just to acquaint you with what's going on. We'd like to welcome you once again to this ceremony. My name is Cyril Stover, and my task here is to acquaint you with the event and all the activities therein. I won't be doing this alone. I have with me who assists in acquainting you with the various activities. Philip Rena is here with me. Philip?
Thank you very much. Of course, it's always a very rare privilege to work with you, Uncle Cyril. Once again, I welcome you.
Thank you. And we're also here with Ango Sali and Mudupe Oyedeku. The two, Ango and Mudupe, would be our main translators for this event, and they will be acquainting you with the activities in French. So I'd quickly like to ask Ango Sali and Mudupe Oyedeku to quickly say a word to welcome you here.
Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, et soyez les bienvenus.
Bonjour mesdames et messieurs, vous êtes les bienvenus à cette cérémonie de lancement du projet ferroviaire qui va de Maradi à de Kassina à Djibia à Maradi en République du Niger. Merci. Donc dans quelques instants nous allons commencer avec l'arrivée des dignitaires. Merci.
Thank you very much, Ango Sale and Mudupe Oyedeku, who will be bringing you the translations in French. And Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at an event like this, it is usual to have a plethora of dignitaries. And at this moment, let me call on Philip to do a few recognitions as we go on and prepare to kickstart this program. Philip?
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in the course of the event, everyone will be duly recognized. Of course, already seated here is the governor of Katsina State. At some point, we'll run down the very formal protocol, but let me welcome a couple of other guests here. Let me begin with those from the security agency. Shall I also recognize amongst us this beautiful morning, Brigadier General W.B. Idris,